Cor blimey, follow that. What an astonishing presentation. Imagine, if you will, a small boy growing up in Glasgow, completely bewildered by the world. It felt to me like I was living in a kind of fog of bewilderment. My fog of bewilderment, I remember that well. I was actually a very shy little lad and not very confident at all. And I wasn't bold like other kids were. I'd had a couple of childhood illnesses, one of which was kind of painful and recurrent, and it kind of pulled the rug out from underneath my feet. However, by the time I was 19, I thought I was a rock god. I was in a rock band. Imagine, if you will, long hair down the back, a white boiler suit, silver platform-soled shoes.
Where's the picture?
I chose to do the drawing instead. I was at art college. This is what you did at art college in 1974. I'd been invited to join a band. The band made a single. The band went on tour. I went with it. We supported lots of other famous bands. I even got stopped in the street and asked for my autograph. Twice. So why am I telling you all that? You can see the reviews. Bunch of artless dorks playing retarded jug band music. Why am I telling you all this? It's because my talk really is based around themes of confidence and finding your place in the world and kind of making your mark and being successful in your own terms. And of course, this wasn't confidence, this was cockiness. It was a kind of arrogance of youth. I soon learned to know what the difference was, and it's important. By the time I was 30, I was a professional juggler. I'd put together a 45-minute one-man show, and I was touring it around schools and hospitals and colleges and prisons all over the place. And I'd forged a relationship with a company in New York that were also an arts and education company. And I went back and forward and worked with them over a period of 5 or 6 years. And they came over to this country as well. And what I did was I put the show together really as a way of taking some basic, quite geeky skills and using them with young people to boost their confidence. So I would go out into schools and colleges and I'd be a kind of shy geek, showing other shy geeks how to be confident by using these geeky skills. Just to bring us up to present date, I'm now a writer and a blogger. I'm business editor for Craft and Design magazine, and I write and I blog for magazines and websites in this country and abroad. But I also coach people. And it's not just creative people that I coach. I'm coaching a vet at the moment who specializes in doing hip replacements on dogs. How cool is that? I coached a bed maker a little while back. Makes 6-foot wide white leather beds with 54-inch television screens that rise out the bedboard and 50-watt speakers in the headboard, if you're into that sort of thing. I saw a flicker of interest just over there. But I've also coached a Roman Catholic hermit, and her aspiration was to do her calligraphy in the service of God. And all she wanted each year was like £2,500 or £3,000 because she was fairly self-sufficient and she just needed what she wanted to get by on. And that to me is being successful in your own terms just as much as being a £2 million a year bed maker. So it's interesting, isn't it? This is about confidence in different forms. And confidence is a mercurial quality, isn't it? Because you have it in your hand 1 minute and the next minute it's gone. And then a little later you get it back again. It's a different sort of confidence, isn't it? We all need our own brand of confidence and we have to find it in our own way. Interesting. So I've worked with hundreds of people over the years and had thousands of hours in conversation with people. And loads of ideas emerge, but what I've noticed is the folk that are successful on their own terms do tend to have a particular pattern to the way they work. They seem to have some common things that they do. They might not do all of them, but they certainly do most of them. And that's what I want to share with you in my talk this afternoon. This notion that there are some common things that we can do and grasp in our lives that will allow us to be confident, whether we're quiet or not, and successful in our own terms. This is the first question that they tend to have an answer to, is, what am I on the planet to do? It's a really important question, isn't it? Probably the most important question for a lot of us. Because I believe we're born with a seed of something inside us, and if that seed gets oxygen and it gets light and it's nurtured, we grow strong, we push our roots down, and we find a way to be ourselves in the world and to do all the things that we ought to do by being ourselves. But if that seed doesn't get light, if it doesn't get nurtured, if it's starved of oxygen, then you don't get on in the world the way you ought to do. And there's lots of things that stop that. Having a tragedy in your life, or being sick as a child, or having an overbearing parent, or something like that. I'm sure you know what I mean. You also need to know what moves you forward and what holds you back, and struggle to keep those things in balance as you go through life, because, you know, procrastination's a killer. Perfectionism can hold you back. There's all sorts of thresholds of anxiety that you need to cross in order to be successful. We're constantly plagued by them, aren't we? Because it's like a mythical creature. As soon as you chop one down, another one grows in its place. And you need to know very clearly what moves you forward. If you're motivated by money, you need to make sure you earn enough to keep you going and keep you happy. If you're motivated by the love of what you do, you need to find some way to sustain yourself while you do those things. I do an awful lot of work with artists and craftspeople who traditionally don't earn a lot and often run into terrible difficulties because they're making something that they love but which they can't find customers for. So you need to keep those two things in balance, and it's a constant struggle. You need to aim high. You need to stretch yourself out into the edges of your stretch zone in what you do, because it's only by going out there and playing around in your stretch zone that that becomes comfortable to you, and it actually becomes then part of your comfort zone, and you can aim for fresh and more difficult goals, can't you? The other thing is this notion of having your own framework of what is possible. You need to be yourself in life, not what other people think you should be or have told you to be. You do have the right to construct your own framework of possibility and work within that to make your way in the world and to be successful on your own terms, I think. This is a big one. Asking for help is not an admission of failure. And a lot of people fail to ask for help. Their businesses don't thrive because they failed to ask for help. Asking for help is actually a statement of courage, isn't it? It's a statement of integrity. It's a statement of a willingness to change. It's a statement of a willingness to move forward. And the funny thing is that when you display those things, people step forward. They understand what it is you're after, and they help. And if you ask for help in the right way, in the right place at the right time, of the right people in the right context, and you do it genuinely, then people will help. An awful lot of people say to me, no, I can't, it's cheeky, you know, I'm sticking my neck out, they won't help me, they're big, they're clever. And actually, 9 out of 10 people I've ever asked for help in my life have stepped forward and given the help when it's needed. Classic, terribly important thing to do. This is both literal and metaphorical, because I think writing cheeky letters is also a metaphor for making contact with people that can be really useful to you. But I think the odd cheeky letter is a good thing to do now and again. I'll relate this back to some of the earlier slides that I've showed you. When I put the 45-minute, boasting again, 45-minute circus show together, I kind of got it, but I wasn't that good at it. I needed help. And the guy that taught me, I learned on a 2-day workshop up in Hume Library in Manchester. The guy that taught me, Reg Bolton, at the end of the 2-day workshop, put a business card in my hand and it said National Circus Project, New York, and I looked at it and thought, why is he giving me that? I stuck it in my back pocket. I went home and I put it on my bookshelf and forgot all about it. A couple of years later, I was really struggling with this show, this concept, this way of making these things work with young people to make them more confident, get great value out of it. And I went home one afternoon and I found the card on the bookshelf and I went, that's why he gave me the card. I should have done something about this much, much sooner. So I went off and had a few beers actually, and I went home and got my writing pad out. This is pre-internet. Got my writing pad out and wrote a letter, stuck a stamp on it and went down the post box that night and put it in the post box before I gave up my courage and took it home and tore it up. 10 days later, I was sitting at my dinner table having Sunday dinner, and the phone rang, and it was a transatlantic call from the National Circus Project saying, yeah, we know what you want to do. If you can get the money together, come out here, live with us for 3 weeks. We'll show you how to do it, how to put the show together, how to do all the marketing, how to take it back home again, how to be successful. Wow. So I wheedled £750 out of the Arts Council, because circus was really popular in those days, and I went off to New York, and that started a 7-year successful relationship. Cheeky letters do work now and again, if you get them right. Coming closer to the present day, a friend of mine who's a blacksmith asked me to write a little article for the British Artists Blacksmithing Association newsletter, which I did, and it was successful. And I got it back. It was the first time I'd ever seen what I did in print. And I thought, ooh, that looks rather cool. I'd like to do that again. I'd like to do it again. I'd like to do it more often, and I'd like to do it somewhere else. And I'd been reading Craft and Design magazine and thinking this is a magazine that I really love, and it appeals to all of the folk that I work with, all of these arty, crafty folk. And I wrote to them again and enclosed a copy of the article from the British Artists Blacksmithing Association magazine and said, would you take something like this? Just try it out. And they wrote back, email this time, much later, and said, yes, of course we will. And they tried it, and they liked it. And they said, can you do another one? So I did another one. And this went on for a while, over a 12-month period. And I just morphed into the role of business editor with Craft and Design magazine. That's just the power of a cheeky letter. The other thing I really advocate in life is to make sure that you have a dream list. A list of those things that you really, really want to achieve. And I'm not talking about a bucket list here. It's not, I want to parachute or I want to jump out of a plane or whatever. It's a list of those things that really stand out for you as the achievements that could be. So if you're a craftsman, it might be exhibiting at the V&A. If you're a writer, it might be writing for The Guardian. Think of all sorts of examples of that. But you need to set your dream list that takes you out into the stretch zone and learn to live in there. We have folks in this room that have been talking to us that are examples of that. Climbing mountains, growing your own furniture, making wonderful environments for people to live in, living on the edge. These folk know what a dream list is. But you can't do your dream list on your own. It requires help from other people, really. So you do need to talk about it. You need to tell other people what your hopes and dreams are. You need to speak those things out loud. And you also need to find somebody outside of yourself to be accountable to, because that's the thing that will drive you along. What's your gift? The gift is something that's bigger than the sum of yourself. What you do for yourself dies with you. What you do for others lives on. It has a legacy attached to it. And if you really want to be successful, even in a quiet way, it's useful to begin to think in those terms, to make your mark in the world in a way that's bigger than yourself. And that, again, is exemplified by a lot of the people that have been talking here today. What's your gift to the world? I think the Roman Catholic hermit I was talking about, she had a gift that she gave to people. There's a man here growing furniture. I can just imagine having a grandson and saying, hello there, welcome to the world. I've just planted your dining table and 8 chairs. And by the way, there might be a lamp to go with that as well. That's a gift, isn't it? And that's what I mean. Finally, how do you show up in the world? Because if you're not that confident, you suffer from this terrible... I work with people that suffer from what I call social media anxiety. because they're not on everything. You know, they're not on Twitter, they're not on Facebook, they don't have a website, they don't have all of this stuff. And it's bonkers, isn't it? You can't be good on every single platform in the world. Some people are good at standing on stages, but some people slave away in a darkened room for 4 years and produce a work of staggering beauty in a novel form. Some folk are brilliant bloggers. Some folk exist on Twitter to be thought leaders, and all they do is notice brilliant stuff and redirect it out to their audience. So you can show up in the world in a gazillion different ways, can't you? But the thing is to find the thing that's appropriate to you, the platform that's most appropriate to you. Remember, confidence comes in different shapes and sizes. So it's about finding that platform. So just to summarize now, what are you on the planet to do? What moves you forward? What holds you back? How are you going to aim high? How are you going to build that framework of possibility for yourself? Who could you ask for help right now that would be able to help you in some substantial way? Who are you going to write the cheeky letter to? And who are you going to shout this idea out loud to? Because you might just get some help from them. What's your gift? What's the thing that's bigger than yourself in the world? And how are you going to show up? It's about being mindful. It's about noticing these things, noticing the things that you feel you can move forward with, and acting on them. And through doing that, making extraordinary things happen. Thank you.